You are tired. I know you are. Not the kind of tired that a good night of sleep can fix. This is a different kind of tired. The kind that lives deep in your chest. The kind that makes you stare at the ceiling at 2 in the morning and ask yourself, how much longer can I do this? If that is you right now, I want you to stay with me. Because today, I am not going to tell you to think positive. I am not going to tell you to smile through the pain. This is a graded lesson for English learners who want more than words. It is for your heart, your courage, your life. What I am going to do is give you something real. 7 sentences. Just 7. The exact words you can say to yourself when everything feels too heavy. Not motivational posters. Not empty advice from people who have never been where you are. Real language. Honest language. The kind of language that people who have survived the hardest moments in their lives have learned to use. Because here is what most people don't know. When life gets hard, the first thing we lose is not our strength. It is our words. We go quiet inside. Or worse, the only voice we hear is the one that says, "You are not enough. You cannot do this. This is too much for you." And that voice is lying. There was a man who sat in his car in a parking lot for 40 minutes before a job interview he had waited 3 months to get. He did not go inside. He drove home. Not because he was weak, because he had no words for that moment. Nobody had ever given him the language for what he was feeling. Nobody had ever said, "Here, use these sentences." Here is what you say to yourself when the fear is bigger than the plan. That is what today is for. Not inspiration that fades by tomorrow. Not a list of things to feel good about. A toolkit. 7 sentences you can actually use. Practical, honest human language for the moments when everything else falls away. Your words are your first step. Not your actions, not your plans. Your words. The sentences you say to yourself in the dark, in the quiet, in the moments nobody else sees. Those words shape what you do next. They shape who you become. Today, I want to give you 7 of them. 7 sentences for the 7 hardest kinds of moments. Say them out loud. Say them quietly. Say them to yourself when you have nothing left. They will not fix everything, but they will help you take the next step. And sometimes, that is enough. If this kind of content speaks to you, if you want more lessons that go deeper than the surface, subscribe right now. There is more coming, and you are going to want to be here for it. Let's begin. Lesson 1. I am still here. The first sentence costs nothing. It asks nothing of you. It does not ask you to be strong. It does not ask you to be okay. It does not ask you to have a plan or a reason or a next step. It only asks you to notice one simple truth. You are still here. That sounds small. I know it does. But I want you to think about what it actually means. To still be here means you have not given up. To still be here means that every hard morning, every long night, every moment you thought you could not continue, you did. You continued. Maybe not gracefully, maybe not with confidence, maybe just by putting one foot on the floor and making it to the kitchen. But you made it. You are still here. Viktor Frankl was an Austrian psychiatrist. During World War II, he was sent to a concentration camp. He lost almost everything. His family, his home, his work, his freedom. The guards took his clothes, his name, his identity. He had nothing left that belonged to him, except one thing. And I want to be careful here because Viktor Frankl's story is extraordinary in a way that can make it feel distant. It can feel like something that happened to someone else in another time in a level of suffering most of us will thankfully never know. So let me bring it closer. Let me make it yours. You do not have to be in a camp to lose your words. You can lose them in a hospital waiting room. You can lose them on the day you realize a relationship is over. You can lose them on a Sunday afternoon when the sadness arrives without explanation and sits down beside you and will not leave. In those moments, in your moments, the same truth applies. The last freedom is always the freedom to choose the words you say to yourself. And the most honest, most courageous word you can choose in the hardest moment is simply this: I am still here. His inner voice. The words he said to himself in the dark. He lost his name. He lost his freedom. He lost everything he owned. But he kept his words. And those words, quiet and private and completely his own, became the foundation of his survival. He wrote later that the last of all human freedoms is the freedom to choose your attitude in any situation. Your attitude begins with your words. Now here is something that psychology has shown us. When you name what you are feeling, something shifts in your brain. The panic becomes smaller. The overwhelm becomes something you can look at instead of something that swallows you. Just saying the words, I am still here, moves you from inside the storm to standing beside it. You become, for just a moment, the person watching, not the person drowning. I am still here is not a declaration of victory. It is not you saying everything is fine. It is you saying I have not stopped. I am breathing. I am present. Whatever this is, I am still in it, and I have not walked away from myself. Think about the hardest thing you have been through. Not today, not this week. The hardest thing. The thing that made you wonder in your most honest and private moments whether you could survive it. You did not know then that you would get through it. You could not see the other side. But you are listening to these words right now, which means you made it. Which means you are still here. Say it now, quietly if you want, or just think it. I am still here. That is not weakness. That is the first act of strength. Lesson 2. This is hard, and I can handle it. Most people say it with the wrong word. They say this is hard, but I will try. This is painful, but I will push through. I am scared, but I will do it anyway. They mean well. The sentence is trying to be brave, but the word but does something quiet and damaging. It erases everything that came before it. It says the hard part doesn't count. The pain doesn't matter. Just push through and stop feeling what you feel. And that doesn't work. Not really. Not for long. Here's the truth. You cannot think your way out of pain by pretending it isn't there. The weight is real. The fear is real. The exhaustion is real. And when you use the word but, you are telling yourself that the real things don't deserve space. You are telling yourself to perform strength instead of build it. So change one word, just one. This is hard, and I can handle it. And holds both things at the same time. It says, yes, this is genuinely difficult. And yes, I am genuinely capable. Both are true. Neither cancels the other. The pain gets to exist, and so does your strength. You don't have to choose. Brené Brown, a researcher who has spent decades studying how people deal with difficult emotions, talks about the stories we tell ourselves in hard moments. She says that when something painful happens, our brain immediately starts writing a story about it. And most of the time, that story is not kind. It is not fair. It is fast and frightened, and it fills in the gaps with the worst possible version of events. She teaches a simple practice. When you notice that story running inside you, say to yourself, The story I am telling myself right now is, and then finish the sentence. Honestly, not to judge it, just to see it. Because when you can see the story, you can change it. When you can say, this is hard and I can handle it, you are rewriting the story in real time. It is hard to lose someone you love. It is hard to start over when you thought you were finished starting over. It is hard to keep going when you see no end to the tunnel. And you are still capable of all three. Not because you are extraordinary, because you are human. And humans are built for this, even when it doesn't feel that way. There is also something important about how you speak to yourself. Not just what you say, but how you say it. Researchers have found that when you speak to yourself using your own name or using the word you instead of I, something shifts. Instead of saying, I can handle this, try saying, you can handle this. It sounds strange at first, but it creates a small and helpful distance. It feels for a moment like a friend is speaking to you. Like someone who believes in you is standing just behind your shoulder, saying quietly, you can handle this. Because you can. It is hard, and you can. Lesson 3. I don't have to feel ready. I just have to move. Nobody feels ready. Not really. Not the person who started the business that changed their life. Not the parent who held their newborn for the first time and had absolutely no idea what they were doing. Not the student who walked into the exam room with shaking hands. Not the athlete who stood at the starting line and felt fear moving through their body like cold water. Nobody feels ready. They move anyway. Here is something that most people get completely backwards. They believe that the feeling of readiness comes first and then the action follows. They wait. They prepare. They tell themselves, when I feel more confident, I will start. When I feel less afraid, I will try. When the timing feels right, I will move. And they wait. And they keep waiting. And the feeling never comes because the feeling was never going to come first. Stay with me, because this changes everything. Action comes first. The feeling follows the movement, not the other way around. You do not wait until you feel brave to do the brave thing. You do the brave thing, and then somewhere in the middle of doing it, you discover that you were braver than you thought. The confidence is built inside the action, not before it. David Goggins is someone who understands this at a very deep level. He grew up with serious disadvantages. He struggled with his weight, with poverty, with a painful childhood. He became one of the most physically tough people in the world, not because he always felt ready, because he learned to move when he absolutely did not want to. He developed what he calls the cookie jar, a mental collection of every hard thing he had ever done, every race finished, every moment he wanted to quit and didn't. Every morning he got up when staying down would have been easier. When he reaches a moment where he feels completely done, he reaches into that jar. He reminds himself of what he has already survived. And that reminder becomes fuel. I don't have to feel ready. I just have to move. A stuck mind waits for the feeling. A free mind creates it. That is not poetry. That is how the brain actually works. When you move even in a small way, even badly, even without confidence, your brain begins to receive new information. It says, oh, we are doing this. And it starts to adjust. It starts to help. The chemicals shift. The focus sharpens. The fear, while it does not disappear, becomes smaller than the motion. Your words are your first step. Not next week. Not when things calm down. Not when you feel ready. The words you say right now, today, in this moment of not ready, are the first step. I don't have to feel ready. I just have to move. Say it on the Monday morning when your chest feels heavy and the week ahead looks impossible. Say it before the conversation you have been avoiding. Say it at the beginning of the thing you have been postponing for months because the right moment never seemed to arrive. The right moment is not coming. This is the moment. And you don't have to feel ready for it. You just have to take one step into it. Lesson 4. I have survived hard things before. Your past is not a wound, it is evidence. This is one of the most important shifts you can make in how you think about your own history. Most of us carry our difficult past like a scar we are ashamed of. We look back at the hard years and feel something complicated. Regret, maybe? Sadness? A wish that things had been different. And we rarely stop to notice what is actually sitting inside all of that history. Proof. Quiet, undeniable proof that you are stronger than you give yourself credit for. Every hard thing you have already survived is data. It is not just a memory. It is evidence of your capacity. Evidence that when the ground disappeared beneath you, you found a way to land. Evidence that when the door closed, you eventually found a window or you learned to live differently in the dark. You did not always do it perfectly. You did not always do it gracefully. But you did it. You got through it. And that matters more than you know. Now think about this. Serena Williams is considered by many people to be the greatest tennis player who ever lived. But what makes her extraordinary is not just her physical ability. It is what she does inside the hardest moments of a match. When she is losing. When the pressure is enormous. When the crowd is against her, and her body is tired, and the score looks impossible. She talks to herself. Out loud sometimes. Quietly other times. She calls up her history. Every match she fought back from. Every moment she was counted out, and proved the count wrong. She uses her past as fuel for her present. You can do this too. Your past does not have to be extraordinary for it to be powerful. It just has to be yours. Think of a woman named Maya. She is not famous. She does not have a biography or a documentary. She is a single mother with 2 children and 3 part-time jobs. One night after a week that had broken her in almost every way, she sat down on the kitchen floor and cried. Not quietly. The deep kind of crying that comes from somewhere below words. And when the crying slowed, she sat there in the silence and did something she had never done intentionally before. She remembered. She remembered the night 3 years earlier when she had sat on a different floor in a different city, certain she could not go on. And she had gone on. She had packed her things and moved and started again. She had done it before. She did not tell herself the hard years were good. She did not pretend the struggle had been easy or fair or something she would choose again. She did not perform gratitude she did not feel. She simply looked at the record. Honest, clear, factual. I was in a hard place before. I did not know how I would get through it. I got through it. She used her history not as a story about suffering, but as a document of survival. And that document, simple and private and entirely her own, was enough to get her off the floor, into her bed, and through to the next morning. That is all the evidence ever needs to do. It does not need to make the pain make sense. It does not need to make the future look clear. It just needs to be enough to take the next step. And most of the time it is. If you have lost someone and kept breathing, if you have failed and found the courage to try again, if you have felt completely alone in the middle of the night and still made it to morning, then you have the evidence. You have survived. And that survival is not small. It is the most important thing you have ever done. Here is what the compound effect of small survivals actually means. It does not mean that one hard thing you got through will automatically make the next hard thing easier. Pain is not a competition, and difficulty does not get smaller just because you have seen difficulty before. But something deeper happens. Quietly over time, the accumulation of survived moments builds a kind of interior architecture, a structure inside you that does not collapse as easily as it once did. Not because you have become numb, but because somewhere at a level below conscious thought, you know something that you could not have known before. You know that you can get through things. Take a moment right now. Not later. Now. Think of one hard thing you have already survived. Just one. It does not have to be dramatic. It does not have to be the hardest thing anyone has ever been through. It just has to be real, and it has to be yours. Hold it in your mind. Feel how far you have come from that moment. That distance that ground you crossed, that is your cookie jar. That is your evidence. You have survived hard things before, which means you can survive this. Lesson 5. I don't need to understand it. I just need to get through it. We are a generation that wants answers. Immediately. We have grown up in a world where information is always available. You have a question, you search for it. You have a problem, you look for the solution. You feel confused, you find an explanation. This is, in many ways, a gift. But it has also trained us to believe something that is not always true. It has trained us to believe that understanding must come before moving. But we cannot take a step forward until we know exactly why we are in this situation, exactly what went wrong, and exactly what the right answer is. And in the middle of real pain, that belief can paralyze you completely. Here is what most people miss. The middle of a storm is not the right time to understand the storm. When the water is rising, you do not sit down and study the weather. You move to higher ground. The understanding, the reflection, the making sense of what happened, all of that has its place. But its place is not here, not now, not in the acute moment of difficulty, when what you need is not analysis, but motion. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome for nearly 2 decades. He was one of the most powerful people in the ancient world. And yet he spent his private nights writing in a journal that was never meant to be read by anyone else. Writing to himself. Coaching himself. Reminding himself over and over of one central idea that the Stoic philosophers had built their entire worldview around. You cannot control what happens to you. You can only control your response to what happens to you. And the first response, the most important response, is always an inner one. It is the words you choose. He did not always understand why things went wrong. Rome faced wars, plagues, betrayals, political disasters. He could not always find the reason. But he knew this. The question, why, asked at the wrong moment, leads nowhere useful. The question, what next, asked at the right moment, leads forward. I don't need to understand it. I just need to get through it. This is not giving up on understanding. It is not choosing ignorance. It is choosing the right timing for the right question. There will be a time later when the immediate weight has lifted even a little, when you can sit quietly and begin to make sense of what happened. That time will come. But right now, in this moment, the question is not why. The question is simply, what is my next step? A fragile mind demands an answer before it moves. A strong mind moves and trusts the answer will come later. There is also something important about the need to understand that we rarely talk about. Sometimes the need for an explanation is not really about curiosity. It is about control. If I can understand why this happened, then maybe I can prevent it from happening again. If I can find the reason, then maybe the world is less random and frightening than it seems. The need to understand is sometimes the mind's way of trying to feel safe in an unsafe moment. And the truth is, some things will not be explained. Some doors close without a clear reason. Some people leave without a reason that makes sense. Some losses arrive without warning, without fairness, without any logic that comfort can be built on. And in those moments, the sentence that keeps you moving is not, "I understand this." It is, "I don't need to understand it. I just need to get through it." Name what you are feeling right now. Not to judge it, just to see it. Confusion is okay. Grief is okay. Anger is okay. Fear is okay. You do not have to resolve any of it before you take the next step. You just have to name it, acknowledge that it is real, and then say the sentence. I don't need to understand it. I just need to get through it. The understanding will find you, but first you have to keep moving. Lesson 6. One more step. Just one. Forget the finish line. Forget next month. Forget the plan. Right now, in this moment, none of that matters. The only thing that matters is the smallest possible unit of forward motion. Not the whole journey, not the complete recovery, not the finished version of the life you are trying to build. Just one more step. That is all that is being asked of you right now. Just one. Let me make this simple. When everything feels impossible, the mind needs a task so small that it cannot say no. That is not a weakness. That is intelligence. That is you understanding how the human brain actually works under pressure. When we are overwhelmed, the thinking part of our brain, the part that makes plans and sees the future, goes quiet. The fear part gets loud. And the fear part does not respond well to big goals and long timelines. It responds to one thing. Right now, this moment, this step. So you give it one step, not the whole staircase. Not even the next 3 steps. One. Just one. An overwhelmed mind looks at the mountain and stops. A wise mind looks at the ground directly in front of its feet. Think about what that actually means in a real moment. You have lost your job and you do not know how you are going to pay rent next month. The mountain is enormous. The fear is enormous. But the one step might simply be, today I will update one line of my resume. That is it. Not find a new job, not solve the financial problem, not figure out the entire future. One line, one step, and then tomorrow one more. You are going through the end of a relationship, and the grief feels like it will never lift. The mountain is enormous. But the one step might be, today I will eat one meal sitting at the table instead of lying in bed. That is the step, just that. And it counts. It counts more than you know. Your words are your first step. One call, one page, one breath. That is enough for right now. David Goggins talks about a moment during one of his ultra-marathons, a race of more than 100 miles through the desert, when his body was so broken that he could not think about the miles remaining. He could only think about the next telephone pole. Run to that pole. Just that pole. And when he reached it, he looked for the next one, and the next. One more step, just one. Over and over, until the finish line, which he had stopped thinking about entirely, simply arrived. Here is what most people do not understand about this approach. It is not small thinking. It is not giving up on the big dream. It is actually the only real way to reach the big dream. Every large thing ever built was built one step at a time. Every long recovery happened one day at a time. Every mountain ever climbed was climbed one foothold at a time. The people who finished were not the ones who could see the whole path clearly from the beginning. They were the ones who could commit over and over to just one more step. So when you are standing in the middle of your hard moment, when the weight is heavy and the road ahead looks impossibly long, do not ask yourself how you are going to get through all of it. Ask yourself only this: what is one step I can take right now? Just one. Something so small that even on your worst day, even at your most exhausted, even when you have almost nothing left, you can do it. And then do it. And then ask again. One more step. Just one. And then one more after that. Lesson 7. I am becoming someone stronger. This is the sentence that changes everything, not because of what it says about today, but because of what it says about who you are becoming. Hear me on this. There is a difference between saying I am strong and saying I am becoming someone stronger. The first sentence is a claim. It asks you to already be something you may not yet feel. And on the hardest days, when the evidence around you seems to say the opposite, that claim can feel hollow. It can feel like a lie you are telling yourself to get through the morning. But becoming is different. Becoming is honest. Becoming says, I am not finished. I am not the complete version yet. I am in the middle of a process that is difficult and real and changing me in ways I cannot fully see yet. I am becoming. Present tense, continuous, not done, in motion. James Clear, who wrote one of the most widely read books on human behavior and habits, talks about the power of identity-based language. He says that the most lasting changes in a person's life do not come from setting better goals. They come from shifting how you see yourself. Not, I want to be someone who exercises, but I am someone who takes care of their body. Not, I want to get through this hard time, but I am someone who grows through hard times. The language of identity, repeated honestly and consistently, begins to reshape the neural architecture of the brain. Over time, the words you use to describe yourself become the person you actually are. I am becoming someone stronger is that kind of language. You are becoming someone who knows what pain feels like without being destroyed by it. Someone who knows what fear feels like without being stopped by it. Someone who knows what loss feels like without losing themselves inside it. That person is being built right now. Not in the easy moments, not in the comfortable seasons. In this one. In the hard, uncertain, heavy season you are in right now. And I want to say something about the days when you do not feel like you are becoming anything. The days when you feel like you are falling apart rather than coming together. Those days are part of it too. The becoming is not a straight line. It is not a graph that goes consistently upward. It has dips and reversals and mornings where you wake up feeling exactly as broken as you did 6 months ago, and you wonder if anything has actually changed. Something has changed. You are asking different questions now. You are using different language. You are listening to these words right now, which means some part of you is still reaching for something, still curious, still unwilling to stop entirely. That reaching is the becoming. It does not look dramatic from the inside, it rarely does, but it is real, and it is yours. This is the part that is easy to miss when you are inside the difficulty. You cannot see the growth while it is happening. It is like trying to watch your hair grow by staring in the mirror. The change is real, but it moves at a speed that is invisible to the eye. You only see it later when you look back and realize I am not who I was a year ago. I am not who I was before this happened. Something changed. Something in me became more solid, more honest, more capable of carrying weight without breaking. That change is happening to you right now. Even if you cannot feel it, even if today was hard, even if you made mistakes, even if you cried or gave up on something small or felt like you were moving backwards. The becoming does not require perfection. It only requires that you keep going. One more step, one more sentence, one more morning where you choose even imperfectly to stay. Your words are your first step. Say it now. Quietly or out loud, or just let it sit inside your chest where the tired lives. I am becoming someone stronger. Not someday, now. In this moment, in this difficulty, in this exact season of your life that feels like too much, you are becoming. And that becoming is one of the most important things that has ever happened to you. So here they are, 7 sentences. Not motivational slogans, not empty words on a poster. Real language for real moments. The kind of language that people who have made it through the hardest chapters of their lives have learned to use. When you feel like you cannot go on, say the first one. I am still here. When the pain is real, but so is your strength, say the second one. This is hard, and I can handle it. When you are waiting for a feeling of readiness that is never going to arrive, first say the third one. I don't have to feel ready. I just have to move. When the weight of today feels too heavy, reach into your history and say the fourth one. I have survived hard things before. When the need for answers is keeping you frozen, say the fifth one. I don't need to understand it. I just need to get through it. When the whole road ahead looks impossible, make it smaller and say the sixth one. One more step. Just one. And on any day, every day, in every season of difficulty and growth and becoming, say the seventh one. I am becoming someone stronger. These are your words. Keep them close. Say them in the dark. Say them in the morning before the day begins. Say them in the middle of the hard thing, when nobody is watching and nobody can hear you. They are yours, and they will work. Not because they are magic, because language shapes thought, and thought shapes action, and action shapes the person you are becoming. I want to leave you with one final thought. These 7 sentences are not a cure. Life will still be hard sometimes. You will still have mornings that feel impossible. You will still face things that bring you to your knees. That is not a failure of these words. That is just what life is. What changes is not the difficulty. What changes is what you say to yourself inside the difficulty. And over time, those words begin to build something. Quietly, slowly, the way all real things are built. They build a person who does not fall apart as easily, a person who has language for the hard moments, a person who knows from the inside out that they have survived before and they can survive again. That person is you. That person is already becoming. Your words are your first step. Which of these 7 sentences do you need most right now? Tell me in the comments. I read every single one. And if this lesson meant something to you today, share it with one person who might need these words. You never know who is sitting somewhere right now in their own hard moment, waiting for exactly this. Keep listening, keep learning, keep going. Every word you understand, every lesson you finish, your English and your strength grow together. I will see you in the next one.